There's a movie I remember from my youth called Somewhere in Time, starring Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. In the movie, Reeve's character becomes obsessed with a woman in an old photograph. He learns how to hypnotize himself to travel back in time to 1912, where he meets her and they fall in love. But eventually, he finds something from his own time, a modern penny. And just like that, the spell is broken. He snapped back to reality, leaving behind only the memory of that other life. I thought about that movie today while I was out on a run. Now, this podcast episode is going to be low tech. No intro, no post production, no audio polish, just a quick recording from my phone because I wanted to get this thought out of my head while it was still fresh. I'm on vacation right now, actual vacation. The first real vacation time I've taken all year from my full-time EMS job. I don't have my laptop with me. I don't have my normal podcast set up. And on my phone, I've actually turned off all my work-related notifications. For a couple of days, it's been kind of nice to imagine I don't have any responsibilities. My wife and I are staying near the Mississippi River. And one of my favorite things to do when we travel is run in new places. Run exploring, I call it. I even have a t-shirt that says, I haven't run everywhere, but it's on my list. And this area has been perfect for that. Running along the Mississippi River is hard to beat. This is the second vacation where I've had the chance to run along the river, and both times it's delivered. But today, after I left the trail and got back onto the paved roads through town, I saw something that snapped me right out of my little vacation illusion. An ambulance, just sitting idle in a parking lot, patiently waiting for work. And there it was, my penny from somewhere in time. One look at that ambulance and part of my brain went right back to work, back to EMS, back to shift schedules and calls and responsibility, back to the part of myself I had been trying, at least temporarily, to set down. I guess that'll teach me to try to get away, but that's the thing about the emergency services. Now, for some people, it's just a job, and honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, some of those folks may have healthier boundaries than the rest of us, but for many of us, this work becomes something closer to a calling. And I know we're often warned not to make the job part of our identity, and I understand the wisdom in that. I do. And I've probably given that advice to myself, but the truth is, for a lot of us, it does become part of who we are. Not the whole thing, at least I hope not, but a part, an indelible part, an inescapable part, a part that changes how we see people, how we see risk, how we see suffering and time, and how we see our own place in the world. And I think that's one of the reasons so many first responders struggle with work-life balance. It's not always because we don't care about our families. It's not always because we're chasing overtime or because we're bad at planning. Sometimes it's because we don't know who we are when we're not useful. Sometimes stillness feels suspicious, and sometimes rest feels like neglect. Sometimes vacation feels less like recovery and more like we're getting away with something, like we're cheating on our career. And then we see the ambulance in the parking lot, or we hear the tones in our imagination, or we catch ourselves checking the phone even though we turn the notifications off, and that spell breaks. We're suddenly back. But here's the part that I'm trying to resolve. Maybe the goal isn't to escape the work completely. Maybe that's unrealistic. Maybe the healthier goal is to learn how to carry this calling without letting it carry us away. Because a calling should add meaning to your life. It shouldn't consume the whole thing. The emergency services may be part of who we are, but it cannot be all of who we are. We're also spouses, parents, and friends. We're neighbors. We're runners. We're readers and travelers. People with hobbies, people with bodies that need rest, people with minds that need quiet, and people with lives that were never meant to be spent entirely on call. So if you're sitting on unused paid time off, take some of it. If you've forgotten what you enjoy outside the job, start small and rediscover it. If you feel guilty when you rest, maybe get curious about that guilt instead of obeying it or falling prey to it. And if while you're away, you see an ambulance in a parking lot and it snaps you back for a second, that's okay. Notice it, smile at it, respect what it represents, and then keep on running. Because the job will still be there when you get back, but the river is here right now. Aging well in this work means learning the difference between commitment and captivity. Friends, thank you for spending just a few minutes with me today. As always, fight wisely and age bravely.